मैं Oh My God 2 के लिए फील करता हूँ. We shared the Filmfare Award.
Yeah.
I'm like, यार बहुत बढ़िया चीज कह गई यार वो फिल्म. This country has become even more impatient with the Muslim.
Yeah.
And definitely more impatient with the Muslim woman. 31 की उम्र में I had a heart attack. Then during Ajji I had prostate cancer. So on Ajji I was bleeding through my penis every day. And the theatre owner told me कि भाई people feel really bad watching your film. They don't buy popcorn. It doesn't justify my time and my resources. I don't want feel bad films. When you're talking about the end of the superstar era, last year proved us wrong. Ranbir Kapoor's poster said superstar Ranbir Kapoor in and as Animal, and that was the biggest hit of the last 10 years. So we really need to shut up about our self-importance ki art, ki qadar hai, nahi hai.
Why do everyone in Bollywood or maybe people around us?
ये gesture क्या था?
It just happened. So my very first question is this, that in past 6-7 months I just gained this interest in filmmaking, and then I was like, I want to be a filmmaker. This is something, yaar, wo bahut confidence aa raha hai. This is my creative side that is being explored, and I don't want to do anything academically. I don't want to also continue with the business that I have at my home. I want my own artist.
But you're studying business and marketing, right?
No, I'm studying media.
Okay.
I'm media and marketing.
Okay.
So I was like, filmmaking will make a lot more sense, but I've never been, open to a lot of films. I've never watched a lot of films, and if someone asks you कि भाई मेरे को filmmaker बनना है, and ऐसा मैं क्या करूं, that I learn a lot in a very short period of time. It's obviously a very long process, but for a filmmaker, even a 5-6 years might be a small period of time. So what do you think about that? What would you tell them?
So I'm not a trained filmmaker either.
Yeah.
I found my way into this field almost accidentally after trying a whole lot of things, and I still do a whole lot of things. I don't consider myself a filmmaker alone. So anyone who tells me that they want to learn a lot in a short period of time, I would tell them to not even bother.
Okay.
Go back to whatever the hell you were doing, because there's no way you're going to be able to get even the remotest grip on a medium this complex in a short period of time. There are no shortcuts. Now that said, there's a favorite anecdote of mine that I share every time somebody asks me ki I want to be a filmmaker, what do I do? So you might have seen it or heard it in some interview of mine sometime. I don't even remember how many times I've said this. So Stanley Kubrick was called by, I think it was New York Film School, I'm not sure which university, but they had wanted him to come and talk to their students for years. And उसने बहुत सारी अपनी फिल्में बनाई, Clockwork Orange वगैरह सब बन चुकी थी, and he was just refusing to go. He was like, I don't know what to talk to people about. Just watch my films. What you learn from them, you learn from them. So finally, after Shining or something in the late 70s, he just got fed up. That called him so many times. He said, you know what, I'll come. So he came. And when the students got to know that Stanley Kubrick is coming, students from the past and non-students, all kinds of people crammed into that auditorium. There were people hanging off the chandelier, people hanging off the windows. There were like thousands of youngsters in a room that probably had a capacity of 800.
Okay.
Kubrick walks in, comes to the mic, says, how many of you here want to make films? So every hand went up. So he said, pick up a camera, go shoot, and he left.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, it's like if you want to be a writer, you take a pen and you write every day. You want to be an artist, you buy paints and you paint every day. You want to be a musician, you take a guitar or you take a piece of percussion and you make music every day. What stops you from doing that with film?
Yeah.
The only difference today is that you have cameras on your phones. I didn't have that when I came to Bombay. This only happened in the last 10 to 12 years.
So, but also, you talked about this technique that you used. I'll watch a film once and then I'll shut off the video, watch only for the audio, and then I'll shut off the audio the third time and then only for the video. And then you said that you got trolled because of it.
Yeah.
And because people were like, itna time nahi hai hamare paas. Do you think that is like one of the best ways to learn how to be a filmmaker, how
I
to
see,
understand
even
films.
then when I said it, I think I said it to this group who screened my films at the abstract room.
Yeah.
And even the guy who was talking to me got very moved by that. But uh, the people who saw that reel trolled the fuck out of me. So I said, that's not what I'm asking everyone to do. I'm telling you what I did. I didn't have access to a film school. I also don't enjoy watching films so much. So I don't watch too many films. The films I choose to watch, I really research them before I arrive at them. And once I like a film, I watch it many times to just tear it apart to understand what went into all the choices. So for that, I had heard someone say that you can do this, experience a film 3 times to separate the audio and the video to understand the filmmaker's choices. And it really worked for me. It became my film school. So that's something for years that I did with all the films I really liked.
You still do that?
No, not really. Because the fact that the last 8-10 years have been, it's been such a struggle getting my films made. I literally don't have the time to sit and do that anymore. But in the years that I was trying to understand the medium, I did that almost for 10 years. And I think what I understand of the medium, I mostly understand because of that exercise.
Yeah.
So now also when I'm watching a film, and it's an argument I get into with my friends a lot. I don't go to theaters. I can't watch films in film festivals. I can't watch more than a film a day. I can't watch more than a film a week. So I don't have the normal film consumption habits. So when I watch a film, it's on my device. I break it up. I watch it in bits. It's like reading a book. I put it down, pick it up again. So I get into arguments with my friends a lot because they're like, you need to be an audience when you're watching a film. I'm like, I don't enjoy it. I mean, who said that's the only way to watch a film? I love watching a film academically. I love taking it apart. So now, even when I'm watching it once, my brain is processing it in bits, in pieces. I'm not processing it as a whole. That's my trip.
So if you are not watching a film for like, मान लीजिए आप कंटिन्यूसली कई साल से नहीं देख रहे हैं, 3-4 साल से, बट डज दैट लीड टू मे बी कि हाँ कुछ तो मिस हो रहा है, दैट मे बी आई एम नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड और आई एम नॉट एबल टू कोप अप विथ हाउ आई यूज्ड टू पहले?
I don't know, man. These things are subjective. Also, today in the last 6-7 years, there's so much material out there. It wasn't the case when I came to Bombay 20 years ago, and we used to struggle to get our hands on the one DVD of a film that we were dying to watch. It took us months to get that DVD. Then we passed that DVD around between 10 people. Every film we valued because it took so much effort to get to it. Now there's so much out there that it's just paralyzing. So I'm not interested only. I don't have any OTT subscriptions.
Yeah.
So when I have to watch a film, I borrow, I take someone else's login for a day, or I just watch it on someone else's device. It's just too accessible. So the enjoyment of finding a film, hunting it down, reaching it, valuing it, then it being in your system for days, it's gone. So I'd rather experience it that way. So I don't think I'm missing out on anything, because when I like I said, मैं एक film को निचोड़ता हूँ, तो मेरे जहन में ऐसे बस जाती है वो film that I enjoy it. I live with it for a really long time.
Yeah. Sir, so in one of the interviews, Manoj sir said कि हमने जानबूझ के जोरम को कुछ थिएटर्स में ही डाला टू अंडरस्टैंड द ऑडियंस, कि क्या अभी भी वही ऑडियंस है जो कमर्शियल फिल्म्स के पीछे जा रही है, या अब कुछ चेंजेस हैं, टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज गोइंग ऑन इन द मार्केट. So there are two things related to that I want to ask. First is there obviously we have seen that there's gradual change कि हाँ अब लोग आर्ट को ज़्यादा कदर देना सीख रहे हैं.
सच में?
In some way, in a very like बहुत कम परसेंटेज है वो.
पहले ज़्यादा था, 80s 90s में बहुत ज़्यादा था.
Okay.
इसके बराबर. But please carry on.
Okay, so then this question gets invalid in some way.
No, it's valid for you, but I'll counter
But what I see around me, that commercial cinema, वो अब धीरे धीरे now people are trying to understand, oh, this particular artist, that superstar era is maybe going, maybe fading away. That okay, this star is like this particular actor or actress is like mind blowing. We need to watch more and more films of them. जो भी whatever they bring on the table. And why do you think, if it is so, अगर ये ऐसा है तो ऐसा क्यों है? और दूसरा सवाल ये है कि आप क्या चाहोगे कि ऑडियंस में क्या ऐसा चेंज आए, और कैसी मूवीज देखनी चाहिए, कैसे फिल्म्स देखने चाहिए उन्हें टू अंडरस्टैंड द रियल वैल्यू ऑफ इट?
सो ये जो आप कह रहे हो ना कि एक आर्ट की कदर ज़्यादा हो रही है आज, एंड पीपल आर identifying the actors and seeking out more films by them, that's only happening in the film buff circles. So
Okay.
when again, it's an argument I get into a lot with my peers. They're like, "Arey, people are really talking about your film." I'm like, "Who are these people?" There are people in Aram Nagar. There are people between Andheri and Bandra and Goregaon. There are not even people in the rest of Bombay. Forget the rest of the country. I said, इस छोटे से कुएं से निकलो, दिल्ली में जाओ, बैंगलोर में जाओ,
Yes.
कलकत्ता में जाओ. मेरा बाप कलकत्ता में रहता था. मेरी फिल्म की खबर मेरे बाप तक नहीं पहुंचती थी. He had
Okay.
no idea. He passed away 5 years back.
Yeah.
But until then, he had no idea I had made a film called Ajji. I had made a film called Bhosle, because outside of the circles that know cinema, that want to work in cinema, nobody gives a fuck. It's just we keep deluding ourselves by talking to the people who are inside that little कुआ with us, and we think that देखो हमारी फिल्म का हवा है. नहीं है भाई, इस कुएं के अंदर हवा है. कुएं के बाहर एक बार झांक कर देखो.
Yes.
And when you're talking about the end of the superstar era, last year proved us wrong. Ranbir Kapoor's poster said superstar Ranbir Kapoor in and as Animal, and that was the biggest hit of the last 10 years. So we really need to shut up about our self-importance की art, की कदर है, नहीं है. 70s और 80s और 90s में the parallel cinema का movement जब हो रहा था, बहुत ज़्यादा कदर थी. सरकार भी कदर करती थी, पैसे देने वाले भी कदर करते थे, देखने वाले भी कदर करते थे. वो सारी फिल्में हॉल्स में आती थी, NFDC उनको बैक करती थी, दूरदर्शन उन फिल्मों को दिखाती थी. आज वो सारी एवेन्यूज बंद है. तो इफ there are some artists who are trying to make their films, they comes at a very huge cost.
But so if I am I know कि हाँ मेरे लिए मेरा आर्ट बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, आई वॉन्ट टू पुट आउट देयर, भले 100 ही लोग देखें, बट इफ दैट इज नॉट गेटिंग मी, लाइक एक बेसिक जो रिक्वायरमेंट है हमें मनी की, इफ वी आर नॉट able to fulfill that, because प्रोड्यूस भी मैं कर रहा हूँ.
तो that is a price you have to pay if you want to prioritize your art. And when you say भले ही 100 लोग देखें, अगर तुम्हारे जेब से पैसे गए तो भले ही 100 लोग देखें, बट 90% ऑफ द टाइम वो पैसे किसी और
स्टूडियो के होते हैं.
किसी और के हैं. वो स्टूडियो का हो या किसी रियल एस्टेट बैरन का हो या किसी एक्टर का हो, पैसे तुम्हारे तो नहीं है ना. तो तुम डिसाइड नहीं कर सकते कि भले ही 100 लोग देखें, कि किसी और के पैसे लगे हुए हैं. तो मैं आर्टिस्टिक फिल्म, एकदम क्लटर ब्रेकिंग स्टोरी, एक ऐसा स्ट्रक्चर जो किसी ने कभी देखा नहीं है, और स्लो फिल्म, उसके ऊपर पॉलिटिक्स भी, कौन डालेगा पैसा. सो आई हैव टू डू अ बैलेंसिंग एक्ट. सो व्हाट यू आर सेइंग कि मेन स्ट्रीम कहते हैं, तो आर्टिस्टिक फिल्म मेकर अज्जी, भोसले, जोरम को ज़्यादा मेन स्ट्रीम मानते हैं, और मेन स्ट्रीम उनको बहुत ज़्यादा आर्टिस्टिक मानती है. दोनों तरफ से, दोनों एक्सट्रीम से मैं रिजेक्ट होता हूँ.
So you fall in the center.
I call myself a gutter filmmaker. I'm not on the sidewalk, I'm not on the road. So I can't have movement because I'm not on the sidewalk, on the road. I'm in the gutter.
So why associate so much negative terms with you?
I'm being realistic. Now people think that the way I talk is pessimistic, but I correct them. I'm like, I call myself a cynic. Now cynicism is not pessimism. Cynicism is constantly questioning your status quo, so that you have a reality check on आप कितने पानी में खड़े हो. Cynic comes from the Greek word for dog. And a dog, by the ancient Greeks, especially by this philosopher called Diogenes, who coined the word cynic, they considered the dog the creature that questions the greed of man and the blindness of man, the short-sightedness of man. Because dogs are loyal, they're simple, they don't kill for pleasure, they only eat when they're hungry. So somewhere cynicism became that philosophy that questioned, the blinkered vision that man has. So I'd like to stay a cynic. I'd like to question myself. I'd like to be clear about where I stand, so that I don't give myself too much importance and I don't sort of end up deluding myself.
And then the second thing that I ask कि आप क्या एक्सपेक्ट करते हो या क्या होप करते हो कि यार अब ऑडियंस ऐसे फिल्म्स देखे, और दे मस्ट वॉच दीज काइंड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स.
I don't know, Pranav. I think, like you said, you've seen all my interviews, read my interviews. I don't romanticize the medium too much. मुझे लगता है कि एक तो इतना एक्सपेंसिव मीडियम है, और उसको थिएटर में आप जब एक फिल्म देखने जाते हो, द काइंड ऑफ रियल एस्टेट एंड द काइंड ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी एंड द काइंड ऑफ रिसोर्सेज एंड द काइंड ऑफ पावर एंड द काइंड ऑफ मनी दैट इज यूज्ड टू कीप अ थिएटर अप एंड रनिंग is such a huge carbon footprint that I'm like, we're better off without cinema. So if you ask me, सिनेमा का इजाद ही नहीं होना चाहिए था. We should have had a medium that doesn't require so much of resource and power and money, so that we can, if we as an artist we want to put something out there, we have less number of obstacles to get to the putting out there. Cinema has the most number of obstacles.
Yeah.
If I was born 60 70 years before I was born, I wouldn't even consider cinema. I would be writing novels. मेरी जो 18-20 स्क्रिप्ट्स कभी फिल्म में तब्दील हुई नहीं, शुरू होकर बंद हो गई, आधा शूट होकर बंद हो गई. अगर मैं नॉवेलिस्ट होता, मेरी 20 नॉवेल्स छप चुकी होती आज तक. आई एम जस्ट सिटिंग ऑन these bound scripts that I don't know what to do with. So I don't know if people need to watch good cinema. People don't want to watch cinema, they're entitled to it. I'm not going to compel them to.
So are you planning something different now कि यार अब तो कुछ different करना पड़ेगा, because from everywhere, even if like a film like Joram is out there, people are talking about it, तब भी यार कुछ हो नहीं रहा है change. So are you planning to do something
मैं 20
else?
साल से कर रहा हूँ, कभी कुछ चेंज कभी हुआ नहीं था, ना कभी शायद होगा. आई डोंट डू दिस फॉर द वर्ल्ड, आई डू इट बिकॉज आई वांट टू पुट माय स्टोरीज आउट.
But when you struggle, like आप, I know you've struggled a lot. आपका एक बहुत नेगेटिव फेज भी रहा है, एक मोस्टली वी हैव सीन दैट. आई
नेगेटिव
नो
मत बोलो, मुश्किल फेज रहा है.
ओके.
Negative is a choice. I have not let anything get negative for me. It's been difficult. Sometimes it gets so difficult that you can't take it. But is that negative? I don't know. It's an active choice. Even to put yourself in a place where you might consider suicide is an active choice. I don't know if that's negative. Sometimes though, killing yourself just feels like liberation. I don't see it as a negative thing. So if I know somebody killed themselves, I'm like, they were entitled to it. यहाँ से तो छुटकारा मिल गया. अब हमको दुख हो रहा है कि वो इंसान मर गया, वो हमारे अंदर का दुख है. वो इंसान दुखी था या नहीं, who are we to judge? तो मैं नेगेटिव वर्ड तो यूज नहीं करूँगा.
सर बट ये डिफिकल्ट फेज बहुत रहा है आपके इसमें. हाँ. लाइफ में, इन लाइक स्पेशली जब आप अपने आर्ट को परस्यू कर रहे थे कलकत्ता से आने के बाद. सो डू यू स्टिल फील कि यार जो भी हो जाए, जितना ये फेस करता रहूं मैं, बट आई स्टिल नॉट मूव अवे फ्रॉम व्हाट my like first idea was?
I don't know. It's a valid question. There are days when I wonder why I'm doing this. कि मतलब इतना अगर मुश्किल है और इतना हार्डबर्न है और खाना और रेंट के वादे हैं, तो मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ? Then the very next day I'm like, but यही करना है. मतलब not filmmaking alone, but raising these questions through storytelling, whether it's short stories or a novel or short films or poetry or graphic art. It's about raising questions. अब यही करना है, क्योंकि ये नहीं करूँगा क्योंकि मेरे पास ऑप्शंस थे. मैं एक्टिविस्ट बन सकता था, मैं पॉलिटिशियन भी बन सकता था. मुझे तो लगता है कि इस देश की सबसे बड़ी ड्रॉबैक ये है कि द पीपल हु एक्चुअली कैन मेक अ डिफरेंस, द पीपल हु हैव heart and mind and soul intact and think well for the country and for the people, don't get into politics. And if I'm choosing to not do all of that and tell stories, then the least I can do is to keep raising these questions through my stories, and I don't know any other way to do this.
So is there any politician you like कि हाँ ये अच्छा काम कर सकता है अभी जो एक्टिव हो?
I don't know man. ये एक 3 घंटे की कॉन्वर्जेशन इस पे ही शुरू हो सकती है. बट आईड रादर नॉट हैव अ टेक ऑन दैट, क्योंकि मैं अगर एक पॉलिटिशियन के 4 गुण की बात करूँगा, कोई उसके 4 डिसएडवांटेजेस कुरेद के निकालेगा और एक बहस शुरू हो जाएगी. क्योंकि कोई भी पॉलिटिशियन ऐसा नहीं है आज की तारीख में जिसने सारी चीज़ें करेक्ट की हो, क्योंकि सिस्टम ही इतना टूटा हुआ है. आपको कहीं ना कहीं एक टेढ़ी तरीके से एक सही चीज भी करनी पड़ेगी.
बट सर अगर कोई चाहे भी, जो लाइक हु कैन रियली मेक अ डिफरेंस, हु कैन ब्रिंग अ चेंज, दे विल नो कि यार एक जनरल परसेप्शन भी है, पता नहीं कितने हद तक सही है कितने हद तक गलत है, कि यार पढ़ने लिखने वाले अच्छे दिमाग वाले तो ज्यादा पॉलिटिक्स में घुस पाते हैं ही नहीं.
दैट इज द बिगेस्ट ड्रॉबैक ऑफ दिस कंट्री. क्योंकि ये बात यूरोप और अमेरिका में तो नहीं हो रही है. वहाँ तो हार्वर्ड के पास आउट्स हो जाते हैं ना प्रेसिडेंट. तो हमारे देश में ये बात क्यों है? सो दिस इज द बिगेस्ट डिसएडवांटेज ऑफ दिस कंट्री. एंड इनफैक्ट पोस्ट independence we had some of the most learned people in the parliament. So this is our failing that we went from the most
Yeah.
learned people to the biggest thugs. That means this country was not capable of holding on to the goodness.
तो अगर सर आप एक स्क्रिप्ट लिख रहे हो, how much does the political discourse of a country at that time influence that?
Vastly, I only write political stories. So I'm constantly reacting to what's happening. Now, the biggest gaping hole there is that when I'm reacting to what's happening now and writing a script, there's no guarantee that script gets made now. I wrote Bhosle in 2011, reacting to the politics of the Shiv Sena and MNS in 2008 and 9. It got made in 2017. I wrote Joram in 2014, reacting to the politics of the then Chidambaram was the Home Minister, the Congress government, what it was doing to the Adivasi. It got made in 2023. It's not in my control making it then. What's in my control is reacting to it and putting it on paper. So I have 3 or 4 scripts that I've written reacting to this government over the last nine and a half years, but nobody seems to have the bandwidth to make them. But eventually I'm hoping not that it gets made when it'll be too late, and there's no point telling that because it's in the past. So that's a constant struggle.
But I think अब और मुश्किल है.
तुम्हारे कहने की भी जरूरत नहीं है, वो सब जानते हैं, सब सुनने वाले जानते हैं, मैं जानता हूँ, हर कीड़ा मकोड़ा और चींटी जानता है कि बहुत मुश्किल है, बट वो कह करना हम कुछ अचीव नहीं करेंगे.
So while watching all your films, I've noticed one thing. So the way shots are taken, I love them. So एक तो जैसे सारी short films I'll written there. I don't know how to pronounce this.
ची पटाका दुम्पा.
So this one, out of all 4-5 short films that I've watched, this one is my favorite. I'll tell you the reason. देख के समझ आ गया कि हाँ 3 लड़कियां बात कर रही हैं, talking about sex and orgasm, and the way they are reacting, हाँ कि वो how they have been like बड़े कैसे हुए हैं वो patriarchal society में, and how statues near it are like around showing कि यार how would people react to this. And in the same way you have used Ganpati ka murti in Bhosle. That is something new that I've seen. Maybe बाकी filmmakers करते होंगे, but I really got fascinated because of that. I was like, man, आप क्या वो बनवाते हो या कहीं पढ़ा मिला तो you just know कि हाँ we can use it.
मैं ऑलमोस्ट 0 बजट में अपनी फिल्में बनाता हूँ. मैं इतनी सारी मूर्तियाँ मैं बनाऊंगा कैसे?
Yeah.
The idea behind my filmmaking really is to come up with a script, yes, but I keep things very open and I react to the real world. So when I start looking for locations, my script keeps getting rewritten. तो हमको ऐसे लोकेशंस मिले, चीपटा का दुम्पा मिले क्या, हम ढूंढने निकले और कई महीनों तक हम ढूंढते रहे. जब I started finding these locations, I started writing them into the script. So I do that a lot. Even on Ajji and Bhosle, the shooting script a week, 2 weeks before the shoot incorporates all the things from the locations that I've found, which are not there in the earlier drafts.
Okay.
So I'm constantly reacting to the real world. That's why I can't make my film on sets, because yes, I have an imagination, but it's open to change if I'm surprised by something new in the real world.
So I want to talk about Ajji. So the scene where they find Manda, and the way there's reaction from Leela and Ajji, normally people would think ये बहुत ज़्यादा urgency होगा, they'll run Manda क्या हुआ, but they slowly came there. हाँ कि कुछ तो हुआ है. I was like कि इमोशन को दिखाया नहीं गया उस तरह से जितना हमने प्रेज्यूम किया. इज इट बिकॉज ऐसे लोग जो इस सिचुएशन में रहते हैं क्या उनको आदत है इन सब की?
That is the answer to the question. They live assuming that the worst will happen to us. And once the worst has happened, आप चीख कर चिल्ला कर मदद मांग कर कुछ नहीं उखाड़ पाओगे. You just got to like, okay, अब क्या करना है, आगे का रास्ता नापना है. Survival.
So the way Ajji starts learning कि हाँ भाई teach me how to cut, कैसे काटते हैं मांस and all. And I don't know, but the way the ending was done, and the process. I knew what is going to happen. Anyone who is watching it would know कि हाँ होने क्या वाला है, what is she planning to do. But the way you showed it, it's like, no, bro, it didn't feel gross. I was like, okay, the right thing is happening. And I know कि हाँ लोग जो हमारा माइंडसेट है पूरे कंट्री का, ओ माई गॉड 2 आई, बट स्टिल पेरेंट्स वर लाइक कि यार जानते हो कैसी फिल्म मैं बच्चों को नहीं दिखाऊंगा, जबकि उन्हीं के लिए बनी है.
अरे वो लीड एक्टर बेचारा नहीं देख पाया, जो बच्चा है, he wasn't allowed to watch it.
हाँ, because it
He's
was
underage.
Yeah.
Next level.
So I was like कि यार ये चली नहीं, क्योंकि ये this is not
नहीं चली, फिल्म चली
नहीं जितनी चलनी चाहिए थी.
250 करोड़ कमाई है, उससे ज्यादा क्या चलेगी.
अज्जी.
अच्छा अज्जी, सॉरी मैं ओ माय गॉड 2 पे फंसा हुआ हूँ. क्योंकि मैं ओ माय गॉड 2 के लिए फील करता हूँ. वी शेयर्ड द फिल्मफेयर अवार्ड.
या
हम लाइक यार बहुत बढ़िया चीज कह गई यार वो फिल्म से, अक्षय कुमार की आड़ में. जीनियस.
इट वाज रियली गुड. आई लाइक दैट फिल्म, जबकि 27-28 कट्स थे उसमें.
हाँ बट वही है, वो फिल्म मेकर भी फाइटर है. इट्स अबाउट फाइंडिंग वेज, नॉट गिविंग अप.
हाँ, so आई विल कम बैक टू अज्जी. फिल्म नहीं चली बिकॉज नॉट बिकॉज द आइडिया वाज नॉट गुड, या नॉट बिकॉज फिल्म अच्छे से बनी नहीं. इट वाज द हाउ वी थिंक एज अ सोसाइटी. हम हेजिटेट करेंगे, अच्छा अच्छी फिल्म है लेकिन यार उसमें सीन्स ऐसे हैं जो मैं खुद नहीं देखना चाहूँगा, खुद नहीं देखना चाहूँगी, अपने बच्चों को नहीं दिखाना चाहूँगी. भले वो बहुत वैलिड चीज़ है, भले देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग एट द एंड व्हाट हैपेंड. एनीवन वुड बी आस्क्ड, अगर उससे बोला जाए ऐसा किया जाए तो दिल भी लिख हाँ करना सही है, एक रेपिस्ट के साथ ऐसा करना.
हाँ बट वो सोसाइटी का मॉरल कोड हम डिसाइड नहीं कर सकते. तब मैं भी गुस्से में था. निर्भया को 2 साल हुए थे जब मैंने ये स्क्रिप्ट लिखी थी मेरे को राइटर के साथ मेरात. बट आज मैं सोचूं तो आई डोंट नो, आई हैव सेकंड थॉट्स अबाउट दैट बीइंग द राइट way to mete out justice. So it's complicated. I wouldn't say it's the only way to do things. So when people had complicated reactions to the film, I get it.
Yeah.
वो उस पॉइंट पे मेरी सच्चाई थी. अब शायद मैं अज्जी ना बनाऊं.
Okay. Why? Because it won't work?
I don't make films for them to work. I make films so that I can sleep at night. I think we pretty clear on that. So I won't decide that on the basis of will it work or not, क्योंकि I don't decide what film gets made. I have to find someone to fund it also. No?
So why
I
do
will
you
write
think
something if it's moving me. Now will it get made or not is not in my hands. तो मेरी एक फिल्म नहीं बनती, मैं दूसरा लिखता हूँ. वो नहीं बनती, तीसरा लिखता हूँ, चौथा लिखता हूँ, पांचवा लिखता हूँ. मैं 20 साल से वही कर रहा हूँ. तो will it work or not? That's a question you shouldn't even ask me, because I am not the authority on that, and that's not what drives me when I write, because I don't control the making of my film. I need many pieces to align. और वो आज बनेगी या 8 साल बाद बनेगी वो भी मेरे कंट्रोल में नहीं है. मैं इसलिए नहीं बनाऊंगा क्योंकि आई डोंट ascribe to that morality today the way I did then. हमारे मॉरल कोड्स भी चेंज होते रहते हैं, क्योंकि तब एक अलग दुनिया थी. एक although yes, I was so angry that I felt that should be done to a rapist of a minor. But the kind of world this government has turned our country into, and the kind of violence I'm seeing being perpetrated by the Hindu majority on everybody from the Dalit to the Muslim to women all over the place, I don't know if sending out this message today is the right thing to do. The conversations need to be different today, because we are living in a slightly much more intolerant world than it was in 2016 when I made it.
I think ये समझ, जैसे अब हम मुंबई में हैं, मुंबई में लोग समझ रहे हैं ये चीज़. बट सिंस आई एम फ्रॉम नॉर्थ यूपी, लेकिन सी कि यार लोगों को ये सही लगता है. कुछ गलत थोड़ी हो रहा है. कहाँ है कुछ? यही होना ही चाहिए था. पहले गलत चीज़ें हो रही थी, अब चीज़ें सही हो रही हैं. एंड द मेन चंक ऑफ द इंडियन पॉपुलेशन बिलीव्स दैट एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग ऑल राइट, एंड दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम. वैसे ही जैसे यहाँ पे एक तबका है जो समझ रहा कि द आर्ट इज़ बीइंग वैल्यूड एंड एवरीथिंग, एंड बाकी में सबको कार्तिक आर्यन की फ़िल्म आई है, शाहरुख खान की फ़िल्म आई है। That is the same thing going on, and that is how films are earning money. In the same way, this is going on with the politics, and that has concerned me a lot.
As it
So,
should.
so when I was around 15, 16 years old, I started understanding कि भाई politics में हो क्या रहा है. After the 2019 major elections, I was like कि let's see क्या है. मेरे को चीज़ें पता चलती रही, and I was like shit यार, this is going crazy, this is not right. एंड वो मेरे को मेंटल टोल उसका मेरे पे मेंटल टोल आ जाता था यार, दिस इज़ नॉट राइट. मैं वहाँ पे ये लोग ऐसे स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं, हाउ कैन आई स्लीप, आई एम नॉट एबल टू स्लीप, दिस इज़ नॉट राइट. मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, कुछ कर सकता हूँ क्या? एंड दैट केप्ट ऑन कंटिन्यूइंग, एंड देन आफ्टर सम टाइम आई वाज लाइक यार, आई एम वेरी लकी दैट आई एम प्रिविलेज्ड इनफ कि मैं एक ऐसे धर्म को बिलोंग करता हूँ, एक ऐसे स्टेटस पे हूँ कि यार मेरे को कुछ होगा नहीं, दैट आई एम सेफ. बट फिर क्वेश्चन आता था कि यार किस पॉइंट तक? एक समय के बाद तो वो आपके पास भी आएंगे इफ यू आर नॉट फॉलोइंग व्हाट दे आर आस्किंग यू टू फॉलो.
एक अक्षय कुमार भी ट्रोल हुआ था ना जब उसकी फिल्म का नाम लक्ष्मी बॉम्ब रखा था उन्होंने. बॉम्ब हटवाया उन्होंने, लक्ष्मी कर दिया. नोबडी इज एग्जेम्प्ट.
इवन फॉर ओ माय गॉड टू दे आर लाइक कि हम अक्षय कुमार को जो चाटा मारेगा उसको हम 1 लाख रुपए देंगे.
नोबडी इज एग्जेम्प्ट. हेट्रेड ऐसी चीज है ना, वो सबको लेकर खत्म होती है.
एंड इट्स ईजियर,
it's quicker, the turnaround time is almost immediate.
It's in one direction, no? So
correct.
If I want to not hate people, if I want to be someone who loves people or who is like treating them well, मेरे को हर direction में जाना है एक तरह से कि हाँ मेरे को इस तरह के रिएक्शन भी मिलेंगे, इस तरह के रिएक्शन भी मिलेंगे, इस तरह की भी. I have to like show उसके हिसाब से क्या प्यार से मैं उनसे कैसे ट्रीट कर सकता हूँ. अगर हेट्रेड में आई थिंक ऐसा है कि हाँ जैसे भी बोलो मुझे आपसे अच्छे से बात नहीं करनी है. It's easier,
Which
it's
is why
quicker.
I feel the politics of Ajji is not the right approach today for me as a filmmaker.
Okay.
Because it's a very unidimensional and very binary conversation, and we are living in a very, very difficult world. Any binary conversation is self-immolatory. It's not going to lead to forward movement. It's going to burn itself up. So I don't know if I would make that film today. तब मुझे उसकी ज़रूरत थी, शायद दुनिया को उसकी ज़रूरत थी, आई डोंट नो. बट आज मैं नहीं बोल पाऊंगा वही चीज़, मैं अलग तरीके से बोलूँगा.
I want to know कि what was your thought process when you sat and wrote Bhosle? What was the thought process behind it, and like what exact idea or theme were you trying to explore? Like you already mentioned कि शिव सेना का और
MNS.
Yeah. So उनका एक जो उस समय सिचुएशन चल रहा था, you are trying to explore that, but when you were writing that, and obviously when Bhosle was made, उसमें कुछ तो डिफरेंस रहा होगा. जो इनिशियल स्क्रिप्ट थी उसमें कुछ तो चेंज रहा होगा.
नहीं, मेरी फिल्मों का कोर मैं बदलने नहीं देता हूँ.
ओके.
तो वो कोर जो 10 चीज़ें मुझे कहनी थी वो बरकरार थी. मैं भेस थोड़ा बदल देता हूँ. Only the face of the film undergoes a slight change, the balancing of things, but the core is unchanged. Otherwise I don't make the film. मेरी जो 3 फिल्में आपने देखी है, आपने इसलिए देखी है क्योंकि I managed to protect the core. There are many films of mine that I have walked away from producers when I've seen the core is getting tampered. मुझे नहीं बनानी, मैं जा रहा हूँ. ये तो 20 साल में मैं सिर्फ 3 फिल्में क्यों बनाता. So in Bhosle, it was not just the politics. There were lots of things we were trying to explore in the writing. But my initial political impulse, क्योंकि in my political films, I'm not only making a political comment. I'm making all kinds of comments. So the primary political comment of Bhosle came from a couple of experiences I had in Bombay. मैं जब Black Friday का research कर रहा था 2003 में, so I met a lot of cops, and this was around the time the Maharashtra Navnirman Sena was carrying forward the legacy of hatred of the Shiv Sena. ये 93 बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट के बाद के जो राइट्स के केसेस थे वो 2003 में अभी तक रिजॉल्व नहीं हुए थे. पुलिस पे प्रेशर थी, एंड दे वर जस्ट पिकिंग अप these Muslims from the ghettos by the hundreds and just showing कि देखो हम पूछताछ कर रहे हैं. तो एक माहौल था hatred और एक restlessness का. And there was the government had given a dictate to all official entities that only Marathi is to be used as an official language of communication. So when I used to talk to the cops in Hindi, they used to answer in Marathi. जैसे भाई मैं अभी कलकत्ता से आया हूँ, मेरा पहला साल है मुंबई में, I don't know Marathi. They used to reply in Marathi and say, then fuck off, don't talk to us. All the signboards were being changed to Marathi. ये early 2000s में हुआ था. Late 90s में बॉम्बे का मुंबई हो चुका था. So I reacted very strongly to that. I'm like, where in the constitution does it say that as a citizen I cannot reside in any part of the country? You don't have the constitutional right to make me feel like an outsider. So 2006-7 में कुछ दंगे भी हुए थे, छोटे छोटे दंगे हुए थे. MNS had gone hammer and tongs at the minorities and Biharis mostly. The outsiders that they could not stand because Biharis were flocking to Maharashtra and taking all the menial jobs that the Marathis didn't want to do and doing it for less and doing longer hours like all migrants do. We are ready to work really hard because we are not from here. We want to make it. We want to earn money, send money back. और इन चीज़ों से मराठियों को दिक्कत थी. तो ये हर स्टेट में होता है. कर्नाटका और केरला में असमीज माइग्रेंट्स को लेकर होता है. हर स्टेट में होता है. बंगाल में भी बिहारियों और बांग्लादेशियों को लेकर होता है. सो it's a pattern that repeats state to state. But I was at the receiving end, so I was really angry. So the anger was the first impulse to put that politics in Bhosle.
But why the character Bhosle?
Again, now if I made a film that was from the perspective of the Bihari migrant and was saying ki no, you can't do this to us, who would have made it? Who would have given me money to make it? Who would have watched it? What would that film have done? So I try to rein in my anger and then try and bring in a balanced perspective, which is what I've done with Joram as well. Ki there are people who don't want this. There are people who want this divisive politics. There are people who are paying the price. And then there are different people in that, like you said, you're privileged enough right now to be exempt from the hatred being spewed at the minority in UP. So there are people at different levels in that pecking order. So I try to bring all those perspectives, place all those perspectives before the audience so that the audience thinks about it for themselves. If every fiber in my being wants to take a stance. I want to amplify the voice of the person being subjugated. But the minute I do that, nobody wants to produce that film. So if you see that the perspective in a cycle, book my show पे है, it's behind a paywall.
Okay.
वो इतना unfiltered rage है और वो perspective subjective है, subjugated का perspective है कि मैं अपने पैसों से ही मुझे बनानी पड़ी. 8 साल से वो शॉर्ट फिल्म में कोई पैसे नहीं डाल रहा था. Finally, I cleaned out my bank account. I literally came back from that shoot with 830 rupees in my account before the pandemic. I had to make it myself. But the minute I have to find funding, I have to bring a balanced perspective.
So how was pandemic में? How are you surviving?
अरे तुम क्या फुदकते हो यार एक चीज से दूसरी चीज पर? That's another 2-hour conversation. You know?
If you can give 3-4 hours, I'm open to have a conversation.
But who will watch it? You
I
can't
don't
make
care.
such art house material. Nobody will watch your films.
I
bro.
my first objective is to have a conversation with you. Then only.
ठीक है, give it 10 years and then you'll be like यार 30 मिनट में खत्म करते हैं, कोई 2 घंटे का देखता नहीं है.
Yeah, everyone has told me this. छोटा बनाओ, but I'm like no.
ठीक है. You're on your journey.
Yeah.
You will arrive when you do. No, the pandemic, I spent the pandemic doing a lot of relief work. I got together, I connected a lot of people and ration, masks and sanitary pads. I spent the entire pandemic doing relief work because I was so furious that the government just left us to ourselves. The government disappeared. They didn't do anything that they were supposed to do during the pandemic other than just call for a lockdown in 24 hours, create chaos, and they disappeared. So I was out there on the field every day doing relief work from day 0 to day 200.
So like अभी तक जितनी conversation हुई, I've seen so the mention of your anger, your frustration towards a particular thing, a particular event, a particular type of crime that takes place. In like, parallelly to that, how, like, do you think the things that you go through while making a film or while writing something regarding that, the जो भी आपको रिएक्शन मिलता है, रिस्पॉन्स मिलता है दूसरों की तरफ से, that just piles up and make your emotions go out of your hand in some way or another?
I won't disagree, because there is no, on this kind of a journey where your, at my impulse to tell my stories is anger against the system, anger against the machine, anger against all of mankind for all the bad choices we've made, all the selfish things we do. And then in the making of it, there is anger against the system for not letting me make it. And then after having made it, there's anger against the system for not appreciating what I've made. So it's a cascade effect of anger at every stage. So I'll be lying if I say that it doesn't have its effect on me. So there's a psychological, emotional, physical manifestation of that impact. So again, I try to reach out. For the longest time, I kept reaching out to my art to use it as balm, to use it as therapy, to use it as a channel for these damaged feelings. But over time, I realized कि यार, work cannot do it all the time, because to put my anger through that channel is to create new anger, because I'm constantly feeding that anger into my work. So my work is also angry. And how much can my work take when it's not getting out there? For every 20 stories I write, one story gets out. The other 19 are sitting there angry, saying, yaar, hamara kab aayega? Hamara mauka kab aayega? So it has its collateral. There is a price to pay. Like after winning 2 Filmfare Awards, I have a lot of friends from my school years and extended family and people who love me, genuinely love me, who are asking me, have things changed? Are people calling you? I'm like, no calls. And if there are those stray calls, they are to attach me to an existing project that I wouldn't even watch. They're like, okay, this guy has the craft, let's attach him to this. I'm like, I have 18 scripts. Can I come narrate them to you? They're like, no, we don't want to hear your scripts. तो 100 कॉन्वर्जेशंस में एक कॉन्वर्जेशन है जो बात को थोड़ा आगे ले जाती है. क्या वो बात मुकाम तक पहुंचेगी? नहीं मालूम, क्योंकि now I'm used to a film taking 4 to 6 years to get made. So I write a script, I'm like, ये कल तो नहीं बनेगी, इसको पाक करते हैं, इसके लिए भी फाइट करना पड़ेगा, दूसरी लिखते हैं, तीसरी लिखते हैं, चौथी लिखते हैं. It has its collateral.
So I would ask something which I think I'm experiencing right now. So I'm like, yaar, I know one thing ki if I just try my best, give जितना दे सकता हूँ उससे भी ज़्यादा, more than my capability to my work, it's just going to get things right. And one day I was very sad about it, and I was talking to my friend, yaar, I'm loving everything related to work. I'm working with Prithvi Theatre. I have my own podcast. I'm also getting some or other good experiences related to that. But yaar, I'm not happy because, like everyone says, ki yaar, everything comes at a cost. And I think this happiness is coming at the cost of my well-being, health के basis पे, happiness के basis पे.
क्यों? You're not getting happiness from what you do.
I'm getting happiness from the work. So like today I'm happy that you are here. I'll be happy that पृथ्वी पे आज मैंने कुछ नया किया. But यार, if I see myself in front of the mirror, यार, my face is dull. Why? Because I'm not taking care of my body, myself that much जितना मेरे को करना चाहिए. And that in somewhere or another is affecting my mental health. आप slow भी हो जाते हो, like यार, you're getting irritated, you're getting frustrated more and more, you're not having the right diet. हैज इट हैपन टू यू? आई नो इट हैज,
कंटिन्यूज टू।
बट एक इंसान जो 19-20 साल का है, वो ये कैसे समझे कि यार स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट्स हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ माई सेल्फ, एंड वो बैलेंस कैसे करे चीजें?
कैसे करे तो इसका जवाब देना बहुत मुश्किल है कि हर इंसान को अपने लिए खुद का बैलेंस निकालना पड़ेगा, नॉट जस्ट इन अ लॉजिकल मैथमेटिकल वे, बट ऑल ऑफ अस नीड डिफरेंट थिंग्स फॉर आवर वेल-बीइंग. All our bodies need different things, all our minds need different things. So it's a how much ever we look outwards for this work satisfaction, I think the only thing I can share is that what I miss and I did not do when I should have, equal amount of energy and time has to be spent to look inwards, and only you can ask the right questions of yourself, and only you can arrive at your own answers. But the inward looking has to happen, because we end up looking outwards for so much of our lives that वो एक नज़र हम अंदर नहीं देते, और जब अंदर चीखता है तभी हम नज़र डालते हैं, बट बाय देन इट्स टू लेट. एक ऑर्गन टूटने पे है, माइंड टूटने पे है, you're on the verge of doing something drastic, that's when you start listening to your inside. But your inside was knocking right through, but we were not listening. तो जितनी नज़र हम बाहर देते हैं ना, उतना अंदर भी देना पड़ेगा. अब what that means, only you can decide for yourself.
When did you realize अपने context में कि यार
I realized many times, and I continued to not listen, because I was trying to romanticize my martyrdom. I used to keep trying, no, I'm sacrificing this for my art, sacrifice. वो martyrdom one day gave me such a chata that I'm like, okay, no, martyrdom is stupidity. We have to find a balanced approach. But by then it was quite late. तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हुई मेरे साथ. 31 की उम्र में I had a heart attack. I was asked to put a pacemaker, and 7 लाख रुपए थे नहीं मेरे पास पेसमेकर के लिए.
पेसमेकर क्या है होता है?
मशीन है जो
Okay.
वो इम्प्लांट करते हैं हार्ट में, और जो आपके हार्ट को बीट
Monitor
कराता
कर-
है.
अच्छा,
नहीं,
okay.
इट डज
Beat
द
कर-
जॉब ऑफ योर हार्ट.
ओके.
तो मेरी हालत इतनी ख़राब हो गई थी दैट बिना पेसमेकर के मेरा दिल चल नहीं रहा था. तो मैंने पेसमेकर लगाया नहीं, मैंने एक बहुत लंबा रूट लिया. आई स्टार्टेड डूइंग होम्योपैथी, आयुर्वेद एंड योगा. तो
Which you still do.
I still do. 14 years I still do. And I had to decide to take the long route, because like pacemaker का क्या है, वो लग जाता है, आपका हार्ट तगड़ा नहीं होता, then the pacemaker is doing the job of the heart. वो तो एक और 7 लाख रुपए थे नहीं मेरे पास. तो वो हुआ 31 की उम्र में. तो I said, यार, it's a warning sign. 5 days later I was back writing 18 hours a day, not eating on time. Like, but ये कौन करेगा, ये भी तो मुझे करना है, और मेरी फिल्में बन नहीं रही हैं. I have to try harder. Then during Ajji I had prostate cancer. So on Ajji I was bleeding through my penis every day. तो मैंने लिटरली अपनी टीम को, मेरा शॉर्ट ब्रेक डाउन और मेरी प्लानिंग इतनी कड़क थी कि मैं आज मर जाऊं, शूट नहीं रुकना चाहिए. मेरी एसोसिएट डायरेक्टर को रोज स्टैंडिंग इंस्ट्रक्शन था, इफ आई डाई टुडे यू कैन नॉट स्टॉप द फिल्म, आई वांट अ पॉस्ट्यूमस डायरेक्टेड बाय क्रेडिट. तो उस हालत में बनी है अज्जी. तो वो जो एंगर अज्जी में है, वो डेस्परेशन है, क्योंकि मैं वो मरते मरते बना रहा था उस फिल्म को. फिर उसके पहले, वो 2016 की बात है, 2014 मार्च में मैंने बंदूक खरीदा, सुसाइड के कगार पे था. तो आई हैव हिट दोज पॉइंट्स मेनी टाइम्स एंड स्टिल नॉट लर्नड माई लेसन. It's only when I was making Bhosle, which was right after Ajji, and again 2-3 things went really wrong in my body, and I had left my father alone in Calcutta when I had moved to Bombay. My mother had passed away, and then I got fed up of Calcutta. I ran away. I told my dad कि मैं आता रहूँगा. तो we used to live in a rented house, and मेरे फादर साड़ी बेचते थे एक छोटी सी दुकान में, वो भी रेंटेड दुकान. तो ही हैड नथिंग रियली टू लिव फॉर आउटसाइड ऑफ मी. सो ही केप्ट होपिंग कि अब मेरी एक बड़ी फिल्म बनेगी, मैं पैसे बनाऊंगा और उनको बुला लूँगा. वो रुकते रुकते हो गए 14 साल. सो भोसले इज ऑल्सो अ ट्रिब्यूट टू माई फादर. सो दैट लाइफ दैट भोसले लिव्स इनसाइड दैट खोली वॉज द लाइफ ऑफ माई फादर. सो व्हेन आई टोल्ड हिम, व्हेन आई वाज राइटिंग इट, कि मैं ना ऐसे एक कहानी लिख रहा हूँ और मैं आप पर बेस कर रहा हूँ, तो ही वॉज क्वाइट मूव्ड. ही इज लाइक, यू नोटिस्ड, आई डिडंट रियलाइज कि तुम यहाँ आते हो, तुम नोटिस भी करते हो मुझ पर क्या बीतती है. तो लगा नोटिस, बट मैं क्या करूँ, मेरा वो करियर शुरू नहीं हो रहा है वहाँ पे. तो मैंने 2018 में फिल्म डिलीवर करी है DCP जुलाई में, और बिकॉज भोसले वॉज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फिल्म टू मेक, मैं उस पूरे साल में कलकत्ता नहीं गया. तो मैं कुछ हर हफ्ते दो बार हफ्ते में डैड को कॉल करता था. एंड इन द फ्यू मंथ्स टिल अगस्त he started behaving very erratically. So as to, and I really wanted to show him the film. Like the minute it's ready, the first person I'm going to do a small screening for is him, to show him that, Dad, this film is a tribute to you. So he used to not recognize me on the phone. तो ये हुआ कुछ महीनों तक हुआ. And I thought ठीक है, depressed हैं, क्योंकि वो clinical depression में थे तब तक. But when I delivered the DCP, next morning I was in Calcutta and he opened the door and he didn't recognize me. So his dementia had hit and he slid into Alzheimer's in a month. So I brought him back to Bombay. I had to put him in a home because he was in such a bad shape I couldn't take care of him. And he never saw Bhosle, he died. So that shook me. कि यार अब मैं ये कैसे justify करूँ? मैं जो ये sacrifice और martyrdom और नहीं काम ये जो मैं कह रहा हूँ खुद को, मेरा बाप मर गया इसके चक्कर में. मतलब मरा ही नहीं, he died a very horrible death. Alzheimer's can really brutalize you, mind, body. A 6-foot man, he was 26 kilos when he died. And he couldn't even stand. So that sort of made me question the point of this fight. So I don't know. So since then, I'm still making difficult choices, but I've started taking out time for myself and started allowing love into my life. I started reaching out to family who had not spoken to for 15 years. I didn't value all these things. Now I value these things, but it's come at a cost.
Did you never marry?
Never married. But yes, I was in relationships and I couldn't sustain them because I was work obsessed. I didn't make time. And when I write, I shut the world out. I can't write 4 hours and then take a call and then meet somebody, then write 4 hours. I can't do that. When I'm writing, it's solitary confinement. I have to shut the world out to immerse myself. And my relationships, every time I've taken a hit because of that attitude. Because for 8 days, 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, I've just disappeared. I'm not available. Now, you can't commit to a human being and not be available.
Yeah.
But I always expected them to understand. I was apologetic and I tried to make up for it, but that was always the final nail in the coffin.
I want to talk about poems. That saved you.
Yeah, poetry has always saved me. Always. In these 20 years that my art has not gotten made in different mediums, constantly writing poetry has kept me alive.
And poetry मेरे को समझ नहीं आती.
बहुत लोगों को समझ में नहीं आती क्योंकि इतना पर्सनल है ना, और उसके कोई दायरे नहीं है, कोई रूल्स नहीं है, कोई इसको समझेगा कि नहीं, इसको किस भेस में आपको डालना है, वो है ही नहीं, वो प्रेशर ही नहीं है. सो पीपल राइट पोइट्री ओनली फॉर देमसेल्व्स एंड इफ इट रीचेस आउट टू समबडी, इट्स अ बोनस. एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट्स सो लिबरेटिंग.
I don't know if it was you or someone else. I think it was you only कि पोएट्री जो है वो आपको एक मौका देती है to interpret according to you, the reader, the one who is reading it. Or maybe it was my teacher, I don't remember. That मैंने एक poem लिख दी, now keys are in your hand, लगाओ और जैसे गाड़ी चलानी है चलाओ पढ़ने के बाद.
क्योंकि एज अ पोएट हम रीडर के बारे में नहीं सोच रहे. इट्स द ओनली मीडियम अदर देन I'd say पेंटिंग, until you find your voice like an MF Hussain and he knows कि people want horses, let me just paint 8,000 horses. अगर वो साइड रखें, पेंटिंग एंड पोइट्री, द एब्स्ट्रैक्शन इन those mediums frees you of the audience or the end consumer of that art, their expectations, completely frees you. उनको समझ में आया, उनको पसंद आया, बोनस है, हम खुद के लिए कर रहे हैं. तो लिटरली वो अपना चाबी खुद बनाए. अगर इसको मेरी पोइट्री को गाड़ी की तरह देख रहे हैं, स्कूटर की तरह देख रहे हैं, साइकिल की तरह देख रहे हैं, स्केटबोर्ड की तरह देख रहे हैं, इट्स देयर प्रॉब्लम. आई रोट दिस बिकॉज आई हैड समथिंग इनसाइड मी दैट नीडेड टू कम आउट. और अगर नहीं समझ में आ रही, मैं एक किताब वापस ले लूँगा पैकेट से. वो पोइट्री, मेरी पोइट्री की किताब है. I won't subject you to it.
I won't give it to you. मे बी
And-
उसको होने के बाद मुझे पोएट्री समझ आने
And
लगी.
that's the only book I had to self-publish क्योंकि nobody wanted to publish it because you don't know who's going to buy it. तो वो मैंने खुद बैठकर मैंने वो पेपर खुद काटा है, खुद बाइंड किया है, खुद प्रिंट किया है, शादी कार्ड प्रिंटर्स के साथ जिन्होंने कभी किताब नहीं प्रिंट करी थी लाइफ में. इट्स अ सेल्फ प्रिंटेड सेल्फ पब्लिश्ड बुक ऑफ पोइट्री.
Every piece that you have.
1000 pieces every piece. 2008 में छपी थी. आज तक 1000 pieces बिके नहीं है तो नहीं बोलूँगा, मैं बांट भी नहीं पाया हूँ. I haven't found the right people to give them to. I'm still sitting on 300 copies. 15 years since it got published.
How much did it cost you back then?
It cost about 1.5 lakh.
Yeah.
So when you see it, it's not just poetry, it's graphic poetry.
Yeah.
So I did an art show in a gallery in Calcutta. It was a solo show of my work. So they wanted a catalog. So मैंने उनको बोला कि आप प्रिंटिंग के पैसे डाल दो और आपको कैटलॉग मिल जाएगा, मेरे को किताब मिल जाएगी. तो वो पैसे उन्होंने डाले. So they got a beautiful looking book as a catalog. तो उनका भी काम हो गया, मेरा भी हो गया.
So I have taken his questions as well. So like you said, you were writing a short film abhi. Abhi you are writing in that process.
Written. Finished it last night.
Okay, yeah. So like you said कि हाँ जो 6-7 साल पहले मैं जिस तरह से सोच के लिखता था आज वैसे नहीं लिख रहा हूँ. So you wanted to know कि what exactly is moving you right now? What is influencing your writing nowadays, which is not similar to what it was पहले?
Yeah, it's again valid question, but a very difficult question to find a fixed answer for. Because we also, as we keep putting our politics and our viewpoint and our questions in I'll speak only about cinema to make it something that I can process while I'm talking. You're also, at least I try to raise questions that I genuinely don't have answers for. Otherwise, why am I raising questions? I could be throwing solutions. Like even in Bhosle or in Joram, I'm actually throwing more questions than I have answers for. I don't have answers to those situations. So when you're in the process of writing the film and making the film, you have thousands of conversations. Like for example, in Joram, we shot in Adivasi villages. I cast a lot of Adivasis in the local scenes in Jharkhand. So conversations with them during the casting process, during the workshop process, during the making process, during the production and post-production process starts to shift me as a storyteller, as a person, as a non-Adivasi. Because that the raising of questions doesn't stop there. The process goes beyond just the raising of questions when I'm making the film with the people on behalf of whom I'm raising those questions. So by the time the film is out, and maybe if I write another film around this situation or around tribal rights or around development, it will not raise the same question that Joram raised. Or if it does, it will raise it maybe in a more nuanced way, or it will also come in with a little bit of an answer. It will be a little more definitive than Joram was. So that is really the journey of an artist. When you're asking questions, you're also seeking answers through the process. So your questions also start changing form from story to story as the years pass. If that's not happening, then you're probably not asking the questions in the most honest or integral to the medium way possible. So I don't have a way to answer your question in a simple manner, because what has changed, I don't know. But those questions, if I ask gender questions today, like between Ajji and Chipataka Dumpa, Ajji asked gender questions, Chipataka Dumpa also asked gender questions. Although they are two very different genres of film, the gender questions they're raising, the fact that they're questioning a patriarchal, orthodox, traditional mindset of the country is more or less the same. Unke daire same hai, but the exact shape of the questions are different. But the way I've asked them has also changed between Ajji and Chipataka Dumpa. I left Ajji at a point of nihilism, कि उसने ये तो कर लिया, उसने उसके गोटे काट दिए, but अभी क्या? Is anything going to change? Is the world a safer place for her granddaughter? Her granddaughter's now gone and slept with the parents. She's forgotten her because she was unavailable. She got so obsessed with revenge. she got taken up by that. So somewhere that time I was questioning my obsession with my work, and my personal life was, just sort of disappearing from me because I was not being able to acknowledge it. The same thing happened with Ajji. So in a lot of ways, Ajji is a film I can't make today because I have changed. The way I ask those questions has changed. Now, Chipataka Dumpa also has certain things that I will not repeat today. I shot this in January 2020, just before the lockdown. 4 years have passed. And this film, this world, this country has become even more impatient with the Muslim.
Yeah.
And definitely more impatient with the Muslim woman. So today when people are watching Chipataka Dumpa, they are like, what are you thinking? You're showing a Muslim woman who is, a victim of orthodox mindsets, and two Hindu women are emancipating her. I'm like, fuck, I'm sorry, I did not think it that way. I was trying to raise gender questions. It was irrelevant to me what the religion was. But I was riffing off personal experiences of those three actors. And Ipshita, who plays Santo, was initially playing Tamanna. I swapped their parts 2 weeks before shoot.
Santo was the girl on the bull.
No, that is Teja.
The third one.
The third girl. So when I told them to, this film I had made it in a very different process. I sort of wrote it with the actors. I made them keep playing it out, took things from their life. So Santo told me about this girl in a burqa in her class in school, and how she got married much before them, and the conversations around sex and orgasms with her. So I riffed off her life experience. It didn't matter to me that that's a Muslim girl and these two are Hindu girls. But today I'm 10 times more extra vigilant about who I'm casting, which character is a Muslim character, which character is a Hindu character, what is the equation between the Hindu and the Muslim, because this country is going through probably its worst phase when it comes to religion and the subjugation of the minority. So Chipataka Dumpa can be seen as a very dangerous appropriation of the religion narrative. And I didn't intend it. But today I will not make it like that. So those things shift given the world I'm responding to, given where I am at as a storyteller today vis-a-vis then. So it's very complex. There's no clear answer to that. But if I'm reacting to the times, if I'm raising questions about the world I inhabit currently, then my questions will keep changing. The form of those questions will keep changing.
So, apart from Manoj Bajpayee, there's one more actor that has been constant, Abhishek Banerjee. Want to know, so obviously I got to know about him very well when I watched Mirzapur and Patal Lok. But I want to know, what do you feel about his acting? Like, we have also talked about rhythm. How do you break it in the right way? Like, in all those, in that direction as well. What do you think about his acting?
I'll come to that later, but it's only because you guys have discovered him from Patal Lok that he matters to you. When he worked with me, nobody knew him. So I always work consistently with people who empower me, who don't think about making money off my films, who don't think about their image, because I don't let people use makeup or look a certain way. So in all those short films, from Nimrat to Divendu to Rasika to Abhishek to Trimala to all these actors, they were actors who surrendered themselves to me कि जो करवाना है करवाओ, हम तुम्हारे साथ काम करना चाहते हैं, तुम्हारी फिल्म में तुमको जो करना है करो, we want to empower you. So Abhishek became a constant because he was also my casting director. So he used to also help me. He brought in a Divendu and he brought in people who otherwise I may not have been able to access. So even Tandav, that entire casting except for Manoj, is Abhishek and his partner Anmol. So they empowered me as casting directors and as actors. So I kept working with him. So he slowly became like an extension of me. He became like, if you see Scorsese, De Niro, people think it's Manoj and me. It's actually Abhishek and me at that time. He was my eyes and body and hands. I used to use him in my scenes to get performances out of other actors. That was the kind of vibe we had found. Then Patal Lok and Mirzapur and all put him on the map in a way where people started discovering him, and then they started coming back and watching my shorts. So it's not about him as an actor more than him being, along with Manoj, an enabler for me. They went beyond being actors. If they are not there, my films are not getting made. Like on Ajji, like Ajji was Abhishek's first feature film, and before that he had done comedy in TVF and all of those things. Beer Hai Tu Behan Chod. People saw him as a very funny guy. And pictures. तो उसकी अज्जी को लेकर फटी हुई थी. He didn't know he would be able to do something that dark, but he allowed me to push him to extremes. And Ajji, I didn't have budgets. I told you the whole film was made in 1 crore. Yeah. So whatever little money he got paid, I think I don't know the figure, but it was awful, that figure. He finally divided that money over my ADs because even my ADs weren't getting paid. He was that kind of a collaborator.
So people like him, Divyendu and Rasika Dugal, obviously they have gradually grown. अभी भी एक कॉल लगाते would they come in कि भाई नहीं है बजट, आओगे करोगे?
I don't know, I've not made that call because मैं इस चीज
की भी stop yourself?
I do. मैं उस चीज की कदर करता हूँ कि उनका भी बड़ा लंबा जर्नी हुआ है. ऐसा नहीं है कि they got stardom overnight. दिवेंदु, रसिका, अभिषेक बहुत पापड़ बेले उन्होंने. So once they reach a stage, I will not make that call for a favor because 8 years back that favor would mean what? Would mean them not getting paid 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs. Today it's them not getting paid 30 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 80 lakhs, 1 crore. So that is a burden I will not want to carry. And even back then, I could have made that call to some more known faces that I knew. Because I've been around for 10 years before those short films also. But why did I work with people who were yet to be known? I didn't know that these people will be better known after my shorts. Because the burden of taking that favor would be a lot less with them. They would be hungrier, they would... मतलब मेरे सोल पे इतना वेट नहीं होता. I don't know, maybe today also Rasika, Abhishek and Divendu might come and work for very, very little, but it's a difficult phone call I will not make. I know what they've been through to get to where they've got to. And I believe there are enough great actors out there who are looking for an opportunity. So in my recent shorts, Chipataka Dumpa and if you see Cycle, they are faces that you've never seen before.
So yeah, Chipataka Dumpa is your latest one?
And Cycle. These are both I shot
not watched Cycle.
Just before the lockdown, and they started traveling in 21 and 22 and they both came online last year.
Okay.
So then I'll look for faces who need that break. Because hopefully they'll get noticed and they'll get more work like Abhishek and Rasika and Vikas Kumar in Absent, who's the cop in Ajji. He's now the cop in Arya. And he's...
But I haven't watched Arya.
And his career's taken off.
Is he the one जो starting a scene में when Bhosle has changed?
No, he's not in Bhosle. He's in Ajji. He's the cop in Ajji. He's the cop in Ajji. The policeman who comes to their house. And,
Yes.
I wanted to play with the dynamics of religion and class also in that film, but वो थोड़ा background में मुझे push करना पड़ा, नहीं तो वो film नहीं बनती.
Okay. स्टूडियो बोलता या जिसने भी पैसे दिए
वो नहीं बनती क्योंकि वो दहशत शुरू हो चुकी थी. 2016-17 की बात है.
Nowadays, you also mentioned Konkana Sen Sharma's short film of the anthology Love Stories 2.
Yeah.
You said यार इसको अकेले डाले होते तो यार सब जीत जाती
मेरे हिसाब से. बट वो फिर आयरनी ये है कि वो बनाती ही नहीं ना अगर ये अपॉर्चुनिटी एक नेटफ्लिक्स उसको नहीं देती.
आज मतलब अब मेरे को ये समझ नहीं आ रहा इफ यू हैव वॉच्ड दिस और नॉट, बट लाइक अब आप बोल रहे हो ना कि मैं बहुत कम देख रहा हूँ इधर, बट ऐसी कुछ शॉर्ट फिल्म्स हैं कि यार ये देख के मजा आ गया, इट नीड्स टू बी एक्सप्लोर्ड मोर रिसेंट की.
यार मैं सच में बहुत कम देखता हूँ. मुझे 2 घंटे सोचना पड़ेगा इसके बारे में. आई वुडंट हैव एनी. आई एम नॉट द काइंड ऑफ गाय हु हैज रिकमेंडेशन.
Konkana Sen Sharma's
what blew me away was the way she presented her gender politics. क्योंकि मैं एज अ मैन आई बीन ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लोर द वुमेन्स पर्सपेक्टिव इन अज्जी, इन साइकिल, इन चिपटाका दुम्पा, एंड आई थिंक आई हैव फेल्ड. बट मैं तब भी एम अ वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस, तो मैं कोशिश करता रहूँगा. बट वो एक औरत के पर्सपेक्टिव सब से जब वो जेंडर पे कमेंट आता है ना, आई ऑलवेज हैव माई आई आउट फॉर दैट कि मैं क्या मिस कर रहा हूँ, मैं क्या नहीं कर पाऊँगा जो एक औरत कर पाएगी. और इस फिल्म में कुछ चीज़ें थी, जैसे वो उसके हस्बैंड का पर्सपेक्टिव, और वो सीन्स जैसे लिखे गए थे, जैसे परफॉर्म करे गए थे, and just that a woman is watching her maid with her husband in her bed hiding, just as an idea it would never have occurred to me कि मैं स्टोरी इस पर्सपेक्टिव से भी कह सकता हूँ. तो दैट एट एवरी स्टेप इट ब्लू माई माइंड कि ये है फीमेल पर्सपेक्टिव ऑन जेंडर. ये आइडिया ही मेरे जहन में नहीं आता. फॉरगेट कि ये आया, किसी ने लिख लिया और मैं इसको शूट कैसे करूंगा, वो तो बात की बात है. ये आइडिया ही मेरे जहन में नहीं आता. This blew my mind at every level. I think I should even stop trying to explore the feminist or the feminine gaze and the perspective in my stories, क्योंकि मैं इस लाइफ टाइम में ये तो नहीं कर पाऊंगा. इतना फाइन था वो, और इतना लाइटली, और इतना इट वॉज ट्रीटेड विथ सच नॉट कि देखो देखो हम इतनी भारी चीज़ कह रहे हैं. वो लाइटनेस भी मैं नहीं ला पाऊंगा, क्योंकि मैं जब ऐसी चीज़ को हैंडल कर रहा हूँ जो मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं है, जैसे एक आदिवासी का पर्सपेक्टिव जोरम में, एक औरत का पर्सपेक्टिव अज्जी में, चिपटाका दुम्पा में, वो मेरे लिए बहुत भारी हो जाता है कि लाइक आई हैव टू रियली ट्रीट दिस विथ केयर और आई माइट डैमेज इट. ये मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं है, इट्स वेरी फ्रेजाइल, तो मेरी फटती है, तो मैं लाइटनेस लाते लाते ढेर हो जाता हूँ. बट क्योंकि ये एक औरत है जो एक औरत का पर्सपेक्टिव कह रही है, वो सेक्सुअलिटी उसी की है, शी इज ट्रीटिंग इट लाइटली. ये मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव है, मैं और किसी का पर्सपेक्टिव आई डोंट नीड टू हैंडल विद केयर. और वो देखकर मेरी फट गई, क्या पर्सपेक्टिव है ये.
Again, coming back to one of his questions, what do you think of young filmmakers? Obviously,
why are you asking me that? I am a young filmmaker.
यंग फिल्मेकर मतलब हमारे उम्र के आसपास के लोग जो उभर रहे हैं.
See, until you've made a film, don't call yourself a filmmaker. I just find
हमारे उम्र के लोग.
हाँ, but until you've made a film, don't refer to yourself as a filmmaker. This is the first thing I would say. Like a lot of people today, because there's a lot of online taking a step back. There are a lot of material being written online. People are writing blogs, people are writing long social media posts. So when I meet people and ask them what they do, the first thing most artists say today, I'm a writer. Okay, what have you written? Blogs, social media posts, and articles, and film criticism. Like that doesn't make you a, yes, you can assume that makes you a writer, but there's lots of dues to pay before you become a writer of certain quality. Now that's a yardstick only you can actually cultivate within yourself, and be very honest with yourself. Put your hand on your heart every day and say, am I a writer? Am I a filmmaker? Have I paid my dues? Have I found a voice through the lens that is unique, that nobody has done before? Until you've reached there, I would advise, don't call yourself a writer, don't call yourself a musician, don't call yourself a painter, don't call yourself a filmmaker until you know you've arrived at a voice. Because it's too flimsy. It's too easy today to call yourself a certain kind of professional and then believe that you're good enough, and your growth gets stunted. Know that you have dues to pay, years of dues to pay before that original voice emerges. And you're like, this I don't think anyone's done before. And you have the confidence and the honesty, that voice inside you tells you, yes, honestly now I think I am an artist. So until you've paid those dues, don't consider yourself a filmmaker. Be humble about that craft. So I don't have any take on young filmmakers, because I don't think you're a filmmaker till you have found a voice which is yours alone. That might take one film, that might take 51 films. Only you can decide that for yourself.
By that, do you also mean कि we are defining filmmaking or writing in a very different way, which is like away from the real
No, what is the real way? I don't know. Until Sergei Eisenstein, made Battleship Potemkin, nobody knew really that that's what you call montage. That's what you call edit. So nobody knows how to define these things till something comes along and defines it for you. I just feel I'm saying a different thing. I'm saying that we are a little, because technology has made things so accessible, we've also become a little too arrogant about being able to do things because it's become so much easier. Earlier, we had to pay a lot of dues to just get our hands on a camera. But today, the camera is always in your hands. So we need to check ourselves that it's come too easy. We've not found our voice yet. And to know that you have to pay dues and you have to really feel it inside, that shift when you find your voice. Only call yourself a filmmaker or a writer or an artist then, when you found your voice.
So I've borrowed one thing from Chalchitra Talks that I think is helping me the most, more than people those who watch it. If you want to recommend films which would help us understand कि यार फिल्में यार ये चीज़ में भी आज मिसिंग है, या ये देखो शॉट्स देखो कितने ब्यूटीफुली टेकन है. So can you suggest some?
Even on Chalchitra Talks, I could not suggest. I am not the right person to, because I watch very little and I just find recommending, especially to learn. Like if I have to recommend to just enjoy, this is a great film or whatever, that's different. But to learn from कि ये बढ़िया film making है, बहुत subjective चीज़ है ये. बहुत सारे young filmmakers हैं पिछले 6 महीने में जिनको animal का craft कमाल लगता है. They're like, boss, craft हो तो ऐसा. So it's very subjective, right? And
what do you think of it?
I haven't watched the film, so I wouldn't like to comment on that. I'm just saying that if animals' craft can be considered textbook craft, I'm not saying it in a demeaning way. I'm just saying that anything can be a benchmark for anybody. So who am I to recommend कि ये filmmaker बढ़िया है, ये film बढ़िया है, इससे सीखो. वो मैं कभी नहीं करता हूँ. वो मैं नहीं कर पाऊँगा. वो आपको ही देख कर अराइव करना पड़ेगा कि ये शायद वो फिल्म मेकर है या वो फिल्म मेकिंग वॉइस है जिसके तरफ मैं खिंच रहा हूँ, जो मेरी वॉइस को शेप करेगी.
We have seen a lot of controversies surrounding Anurag Kashyap. I never think of that. For me, Anurag Kashyap has been someone जिसके वजह से मेरे को फिल्मों में बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट जगा है. And he's amongst one of my favorite directors. When you were, so obviously your first thing was Black Friday when you came to Mumbai. What do you think of that guy's craft? How he looks at films?
उसके वो controversies के बारे में सच में नहीं सोचना चाहिए. People get too engrossed in the bullshit and they forget about the work that people do. Just like all the star actors, the good star actors, people were, for time immemorial, they've been interested in the gossip, but not really about the work they do. So I agree with you, and I strongly believe that if you can keep the two separate, it'll just help you take what's useful and not get blindsided by the shit that can really waste a lot of your life and time. So Anurag is ऐसा इंसान, आई थिंक एक क्या 4 जनरेशन में एक बार आता है. वो नॉट जस्ट क्राफ्ट, उसके क्राफ्ट से तो एज अ फिल्म मेकर मुझे दिक्कत है. तो क्राफ्ट इज द लीस्ट ऑफ इट. द क्राफ्ट माइट स्पीक टू यू, माइट नॉट स्पीक टू यू, बट जस्ट वॉट ही हैज डन for the medium, the way he walked into this medium and showed that films as an alternate to the mainstream can be sustainable. You can be an artist, you can have your voice, you can transcend national boundaries and be a world filmmaker. ये सारी चीज़ें हमारे पहुँच के बाहर लगती थी कि हाँ एक सत्यजीत रे था, उसके बाद कोई नहीं. But this guy just made it possible. He just made it feel like all of us are capable of that. He started a mini movement. The last 20 years have been a bit of a movement spearheaded by this one man who was also shown hope by Ram Gopal Verma before him. But Ramu also was patchy.
Yeah.
But this guy has almost consistently opened doors and kept those doors open for two generations of filmmakers after him. That is very rare. वो शायद ही इस दूसरे देशों में बहुत हुआ है. From Poland to America, there are filmmakers who've done that for generations. But in India, except for maybe Malayalam cinema or a little bit in Marathi cinema, it's not happened. He's probably the first of his kind in the Hindi uh, firmament to just open up these doors.
What does Indian cinema lack as compared to what we see outside of India?
Again, I'm asked about Indian cinema very often. My question to you is, define Indian cinema. Are you talking about Assamese cinema, Odia cinema, Gujarati cinema,
All
Marathi
combined.
Cinema? You can't. They're all different cinemas.
Okay.
It's the problem with India is that we club everything under one cinema. The whole world programs our cinema as different cinemas. If you see the programming of the International Film Festival of Rotterdam last year, the year before that, this year, they will speak differently about a Vetrimaran film from a Vinod Raj film, from a Rima Das film. They will speak reverentially differently about these films because these films and these cinemas are very different from each other. There is no one Indian cinema. We are 30 Indian cinemas. And these conversations need to be had in this complicated manner. We are doing a disservice to Indian cinema by talking about Indian cinema. There is no Indian cinema. There is no one Indian cinema. In fact, within the Hindi cinema, there are 3-4 cinemas. And this is not the case across the world. A Parasite made by the biggest artistic filmmaker of Korea, Bong Joon-ho, makes money at the box office. It's a blockbuster. ये दायरे है ही नहीं बाकी दुनिया के सिनेमाज में. ये सिर्फ इंडिया में ये दायरे आ जाते हैं कि एक मेन स्ट्रीम है, एक आर्टिस्टिक है, एक कन्नड़ा मेन स्ट्रीम है, कन्नड़ा आर्टिस्टिक है, एक हिंदी मेन स्ट्रीम है, हिंदी आर्टिस्टिक है. तो हम हो गए ना. वी आर मिनिमम 30 डिफरेंट सिनेमाज. वी आर नॉट वन इंडियन सिनेमा.
बट कंप्लेन तो हमेशा ऐसी रहती है कि जब इंडियन सिनेमा की बात होती
तो
है
उनका चुतियाप है ना. उनका चुतियाप है कि वो इक्वेट करते हैं इंडियन सिनेमा को बॉलीवुड से. That's the biggest failing of these conversations, that we always equate Indian cinema to Bollywood. And the thing with Bollywood is that, and let's not use the word Bollywood, let's call it Bombay mainstream Hindi cinema. Bollywood वो word भी इतना fractured है. So Bombay mainstream Hindi cinema, to their credit, doesn't give a fuck about being on the world map. They are happy with Indians in India watching it and them making their 500, 600, 800, 1000, 1200 crores. It's us who keep saying कि नहीं हम कैन से पाम डियोर नहीं जीत रहे हैं, हम ऑस्कर तक कब पहुंचेंगे. बॉम्बे हिंदी मेन स्ट्रीम सिनेमा को नहीं पड़ी है. अगर फिल्म क्रॉस्ड ओवर बोनस था, एक लगान चली गई बोनस था. लगान ऑस्कर के लिए नहीं बनी थी. वो इंडिया ने भेजा तो हाँ ठीक है, ऑस्कर में भेजा, ठीक है चलो वहां जाकर शिद्दत से ट्राई करते हैं. बट हम बनाते नहीं है उनके लिए. बट बाकी जो रीजनल सिनेमाज में आर्टिस्ट हैं वो बना रहे हैं इंटरनेशनल अक्लेम के लिए. तो ये बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड डिस्कोर्स है. इस पे हम 4 घंटे बिता सकते हैं. तो एक इंडियन सिनेमा की बात करो ही मत, क्योंकि वो एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती.
सो व्हाट शुड वी से?
I don't know. You have to find it. It's a very difficult discourse. You have to talk about, I believe, and I don't know if that's the solution because it's complicated. You have to talk about the artistic cinema in Hindi separately, the artistic cinema in Kannada, in Tamil, in Malayalam, in... Now I'm going to say the Northeast, and I'll do a disservice to the Northeast because वहाँ पे मणिपुरी फिल्म और असमीज फिल्म और नागा फिल्म बहुत अलग है. उनके वॉइसेस अलग है. बट सिंप्लीफाई कहीं ना कहीं तो करना पड़ेगा, तो उसको क्लब कर देते हैं. साउथ को क्लब कर देते हैं. इफ यू सी अ कंतारा एंड यू सी आई डोंट नो नेम एनी कुंबलंगी नाइट्स, उनका ग्रामर इतना अलग है. इट लुक्स लाइक दे बी मेड इन 2 डिफरेंट कॉन्टिनेंट्स एंड दे आर 2 नेबरिंग स्टेट्स इन द सेम कंट्री. So how can you compare these two? It's like comparing a potato to chicken. There is no comparative analysis or conversation possible. They are so unique.
And that's the case only in India.
Only India is a heterogeneous culture. Every other country is defined by one language.
Yeah.
In Europe, Spanish cinema is in Spanish. Italian cinema is in Italian. उसके अंदर nuances होंगी. But here, Indian cinema is in minimum 30 languages. It is unique to India. It is probably our biggest strength. It is also our biggest weakness because we try to oversimplify it and we do ourselves a disservice.
That's something new that I understood.
I keep trying to remind people, as I'm not having a conversation about Indian cinema, because by calling it Indian cinema, you're doing it a disservice. There is no conversation.
So obviously I've said कि everyone is entitled to अगर उन्हें देखना है देखेंगे, नहीं देखना होगा नहीं देखेंगे. बट सर आपने जब अभी बोला ना मणिपुर नॉर्थ ईस्ट वाले भी अलग तरह से कुछ तो है जो बनाएंगे, वो
बना रहे हैं,
बट ऑब्वियसली लोगों तक पहुंच नहीं रही है, वो बात डिफरेंट है.
लोगों तक पहुंच रही है
बट वो वहीं पे वही रह जाता है ना.
हाँ, तो हुआ यू टू डिसाइड कि वो खुश नहीं है उस चीज से. जैसे एक फिल्म है रैप्चर, मेरे एक दोस्त ने बनाई है, डोमिनिक संगमा. वो पिछले 1 साल में इतने कमाल के फेस्टिवल्स में गई है, इतनी सारी अवार्ड्स ले गई हैं, और वो शायद इसका इंटरनेशनल को प्रोड्यूसर भी है. वो शायद 4 और देशों में रिलीज होगी वो फिल्म.
अच्छा.
तो उस फिल्म की टारगेट ऑडियंस वो पहले से ही जानते हैं, बाकी इंडिया नहीं केयर करेगा. तो पर वो 4 देशों में रिलीज होगी, लिमिटेड रिलीज होगी, उसकी ऑडियंस कहीं ना कहीं तैयार है. हर फिल्म का जरूरी नहीं है एक हिंदी मेन स्ट्रीम ऑडियंस देखे, हर फिल्म की ऑडियंस अलग है.
इफ माई गोल इज टू मेक श्योर कि हम इसको किसी भी तरह से इसको कंबाइन करें अपने फिल्म में, सो दैट मेन स्ट्रीम पूरा इंडिया में.
वो कभी नहीं होगा प्रणव, वो कभी नहीं होगा. वो इंडियन मेन स्ट्रीम फ्रंट बेंचर ऑडियंस अपने आप को खोने के लिए फिल्म देखती है. वो क्यों देखेगी ऐसी फिल्में? और ट्रेजेडी यही है कि हम आज तक ये समझ नहीं पाए कि हम अपने टारगेट ऑडियंस, फिल्म टू फिल्म अपने टारगेट ऑडियंस को ढूंढने कैसे, और उनको बचा के कैसे रखें, और उन तक पहुंचे कैसे हर बार. वो चैलेंज है, और वो हम नहीं फिगर कर पाए क्योंकि हमारे देश में इतने सारे लैंग्वेजेस हैं. आप कैसे एक थिएटर में बोलोगे कि अच्छा ये थिएटर ना सिर्फ आर्ट हाउस कन्नड़ा फिल्मों के लिए है, तो सारे आर्ट हाउस कन्नड़ा ऑडियंस को जाकर बोल दो कि उनकी फिल्म यहाँ चल रही है? कैसे बोलोगे भाई? आप वो एड इश्तिहार डालोगे पेपर में तो वो मेन स्ट्रीम लोगों तक भी पहुंचेगी, वो आपकी टारगेट ऑडियंस, आधी ऑडियंस तक वो एड पहुंचेगी नहीं. जब तक उनको पता चलेगा कि जोरम थिएटर में लगी है, उतर गई वो थिएटर से क्योंकि लोग गए नहीं. बहुत ट्रिकी है ये.
सेम हैपेंड विद ऑलमोस्ट प्यार विद डीजे मोहब्बत.
It happens with everybody. It's very difficult in a country with minimum 30 languages. But in a Spain or an Italy or a France, it's easier because there is mainstream, there is art house. Art house theater chains हैं, जहाँ वो आर्ट हाउस थिएटर में लोग, देखने वाले लोग उन्हीं के एड्स देखते हैं, उन्हीं के मैगजीन्स पढ़ते हैं, उन्हीं थिएटर्स में हर वीकेंड पे जाते हैं, बोलते हैं यहाँ क्या चल रहा है, अच्छा एक यहाँ पे एक इंडियन फिल्म आई हुई है, लंच बॉक्स करके चलो देखते हैं. तो वहाँ एक आर्ट हाउस चेन है और वो टारगेट ऑडियंस तक वो फिल्में पहुंच जाती है. यहाँ वो नहीं है. इट्स वेरी हार्ड टू फाइंड योर टारगेट ऑडियंस. तो द बेस्ट थिंग वी हैव फाउंड इन द लास्ट 6-7 years इज OTT. कि एटलीस्ट OTT पे हम डालकर रख सकते हैं, किसी को देखना होगा तो आएंगे लोग, बट तब भी वो OTTs के एल्गोरिथम्स ऐसे हैं कि आप अज्जी ढूंढ कर मुझे मुश्किल से मिलती है अमेजॉन पे. बिकॉज इट्स नॉट, एल्गोरिथम इज नॉट कंड्यूसिव टू अ फिल्म दैट डजंट मेक द प्लेटफॉर्म मनी. So finding the target audience is the biggest challenge because the discourse is very complicated.
So obviously you must be having a lot of scripts ready.
Yeah.
Is there any progress abhi?
I don't know. The kind of films I want to make, the progress is always slow and it's always unpredictable.
कोई भी ऐसा नहीं हुआ अभी तक किसी भी स्टूडियो से या किसी भी इंडिविजुअल से? नहीं, चलो ये बनाते हैं.
बातें तो बहुत सारी हो रही हैं,
बट कंक्लूजन नहीं है.
10 साल से बहुत सारी हो रही है. कंक्लूजन तक पहुंचने में बहुत सारे पापड़ बेलने पड़ते हैं. उनके लिए भी मुश्किल है. दे ऑल्सो नीड टू सी इन देयर हेड्स कि इतने पैसे डालेंगे, वो रिटर्न कितने वक्त में आएगा, कहाँ से आएगा, वो मैथ्स बिठाना बहुत मुश्किल है.
Is there anything you want to ask me?
Why do you want to be a filmmaker, given that now you also with what you call the young filmmakers, that call the young want to be filmmakers, there is enough and more exposure today to the situation. Like 10 years back, something that drove all of us was blindness and ignorance. We had no idea of the pitfalls, of the challenges, of the obstacles, of the downside. All the reasons why we should not do what we are doing, we didn't know. जब तक करेंगे नहीं, मरेंगे नहीं, पता नहीं चलेगा. तो एकदम ब्लिंकर पहनकर एकदम सांड की तरह हम दौड़ के घुस गए. आज इतना अवेयरनेस है कि यार इसके साथ ये हो रहा है, ये 2 घंटे के कॉन्वर्जेशन में मैंने चलचित्र टॉक्स में पूरा पर्दाफाश कर दिया कि यार बहुत ट्रैजिक जर्नी है। अनुराग इतना बोलता है कि यार ये मुश्किल है, ये मुश्किल है, ये मुश्किल है, मेरी फिल्में भी नहीं चलती हैं। इतना जानने के बाद तब भी आपको फिल्म मेकर क्यों बनना है?
मुझे लगता है मैं अपने क्रिएटिव साइड को उससे बढ़िया किसी और चीज़ के थ्रू नहीं दर्शा सकता। मैं डांस करता हूँ, मैं बचपन से डांस किया हूँ, मैं प्रोफेशनली सीखता भी हूँ, करता भी हूँ, बट मुझे लगता है कुछ अधूरा है उसमें। मैं गिटार बजाता हूँ, मैं गाने की कोशिश करता हूँ, अब भले नहीं गाता, गिटार बजाता हूँ, कोई भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट बजाता हूँ, मुझे तब भी लगता है कुछ तो अधूरा है। बट व्हेन आई थिंक ऑफ फिल्म्स, व्हेन आई सी फिल्म्स, आई एम लाइक यार
इसमें डांस
ये
भी
वो
है,
पूरा कर
म्यूजिक भी
देगा।
है, आर्ट भी है, कलर भी है, लाइट भी है, राइटिंग भी है, परफॉर्मेंस भी है, सब कुछ है।
वो मैं पर्सनली अपने शब्दों से भले ना बयां कर पाऊँ, बट मैं
Right.
उस आर्ट के थ्रू कर सकता हूँ। दिस इज
It's
समथिंग
the
विच
only thing that is holding me to cinema as well. I was a professional dancer. I had my own dance troupe. I was a lead singer of a band. मैंने सारे एवेन्यूज मैंने एक्सप्लोर करे, बट एक करता हूँ तो लगता है यार वो भी करना था, वो भी करना था, वो भी करना था, इसमें तो वो नहीं मिल रहा। सिनेमा में सब मिलता है।
एक चीज नहीं होती मेरे से। मुझे लगता है यार सब आता है तो सब कैसे करूं।
सिनेमा में कर सकते हो।
हाँ। So
है सिनेमा इज like I had said in the Chalchitra Talks interview, it's an abusive relationship.
yeah, I've written this.
Yeah.
You are in an abusive relationship with your work.
Yeah, cinema is an abusive relationship क्योंकि वो कहता है कि यार seductive है, ये मिलेगा, ये मिलेगा, ये मिलेगा, ये मिलेगा, गुर्दा चाहिए, किडनी चाहिए, हार्ट चाहिए, गोटे चाहिए, सब चाहिए, एक एक करके सब लूंगा मैं, ये मिलेगा तेरे को, बट तू टूट के निकलेगा इससे।
Greatest example of everything comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Last question. Why do everyone in Bollywood or maybe people around us?
ये gesture क्या था?
It just happened.
Yeah.
It just happened. So why do people in Bollywood or maybe people around us?
एक तो बॉम्बे हिंदी मेन स्ट्रीम सिनेमा का हो, ये बॉलीवुड इतना बोरोड और इतना इनकम्प्लीट सा,
बॉम्बे मेन स्ट्रीम हिंदी सिनेमा
हाँ
के लोग,
हाँ,
और जो उसके नहीं भी हैं पार्ट, जो आपको जानते हैं, why do they call you the lone wolf of Bollywood?
अरे दो मुश्किल से 2.5 लोग कहते हैं यार, बहुत ज्यादा लोग नहीं कहते हैं इसको।
But why do they think 2 ही लोग हैं अगर, तो क्यों सोच रहे हैं ऐसा?
शायद मैंने सोचा है इसके बारे में, मैंने पूछा भी है। राही अनिल बर्वे वाज द फर्स्ट वन हु कॉल्ड मी दिस। आई थिंक इट्स बिकॉज मैं कभी जैसे अनुराग के साथ जो भी काम करता है ना, वो इतनी उम्मीद देता है वो, और खड़ा रहता है वो कि यार मैं फाइट मारूंगा तुम्हारे लिए। और मैंने ब्लैक फ्राइडे के वक्त ही देख लिया, उसके दरवाजे के बाहर वो कतार इतनी लंबी थी, ऐसे मुझे नहीं खड़ा होना यहाँ पे, ऐसे तू भी अपने आप को तूने बनाया ना, खुद बनाया, मैं खुद बनाऊंगा। तो मैं कभी किसी के पास गया नहीं। I made everything that I made, did everything that I did. If my films weren't getting made, I wrote books. I made short films. I made those short films by emptying out my own bank account. I always did whatever I did on my own.
No, when I was thinking कि क्यों कहते होंगे लोग, मेरे को ये लगता है रीजन कि इन वन वे और अनदर सब फिल्में इसलिए लिख रहे हैं कि भाई एट द एंड मुझे पैसा मिले, मैं कुछ अर्न करूं, जो मैं इतने दिन से रगड़ रहा हूं उसका एक मेरे को हाई एंड रिवॉर्ड मिले। बट यू आर लाइक मुझे चाहिए पैसा, बट यार मैं अपने आर्ट के साथ कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करूंगा। मैं
हमेशा ये कहता हूँ, अगर मुझे आप प्रायोरिटाइज एक ही चीज कर सकते हो लाइफ में, बाकी जो भी आया वो बोनस है। अगर मुझे पैसे प्रायोरिटाइज करने थे, बहुत ऑप्शंस थे मेरे पास। फिल्म मेकिंग में आने से पहले मैं MBA करने निकला था, वो छोड़ दिया मैंने। फिर उसके बाद मैंने 10 अलग अलग जॉब्स करे, वो सारे छोड़ दिए मैंने। यहाँ आकर मैं 4 साल यशराज के साथ था, मैंने 3 फिल्म डील साइन करी थी, वो भी मैं छोड़ के निकला। तो पैसे बनाने के सारे ऑप्शंस थे, बट मुझे अपनी वॉइस प्रायोरिटाइज करनी थी। मैं बहुत पहले समझ गया था कि दोनों नहीं होंगे। जैसे ही मैं 2 चीज़ प्रायोरिटाइज करूंगा, एक को तो सेकेंड प्लेस लेना पड़ेगा, और मुझे अपने सोशो पॉलिटिकल सवाल को सेकंड प्लेस पे नहीं रखना था। और मैं पहले ही समझ गया था पैसे तो मैं नहीं कमा पाऊंगा। अगर किसी दिन पैसे आए जो आज तक नहीं आए, वो अपने आप आएंगे, मैं कर नहीं सकता, वो मैं उसको ढूंढने नहीं निकल सकता अगर मैं अपने सोशो पॉलिटिकल वॉइस को प्रायोरिटाइज कर रहा हूँ। आप एक ही चीज़ प्रायोरिटाइज कर सकते हो, 2 चीज़ें प्रायोरिटाइज नहीं कर सकते।
I hope you had a good time.
I won't use the word good. The word is intense.
Okay.
I hope you had an intense time too.
Yes. I feel this was...
Now see, good is overrated. That is where the mainstream fucks us. Because people go to have a good time, why will they watch our films? So don't promise anybody a good time. Stop expecting a good time. You can
I
prioritize
hope
your
आपको
art.
मजा आया.
मजे के लिए नहीं आया था मैं भाई. I told you, I had an intense time.
हाँ. So intense in what? Positive way, negative way?
That's up to you to decipher.
Up to, yeah.
It's like saying, Joram, did you have an intense time? Like,
Yes.
did I feel good? Did I feel bad? You decide.
Yes.
Some people feel really bad watching my films and they're like, Ajji, for example. There were, like, it happened on Joram also, theatre owners cancelled shows without telling us. Joram पे भी हुआ. तो अज्जी पे एक थिएटर ओनर ने बाकायदा मुझे कहा, मुझे पता चला कुछ दोस्तों से कि हमारे पास टिकटें थी, हम गए, उन्होंने बोला हम नहीं दिखा रहे, वी विल रिफंड योर मनी और यू वॉच व्हाट वी आर शोइंग. सो दे टोल्ड मी, आई वेंट देयर टू लॉज अ कंप्लेंट एंड द थिएटर ओनर टोल्ड मी कि भाई, people feel really bad watching your film. They don't buy popcorn. It doesn't justify my time and my resources. I don't want feel bad films. So I'm like, but I didn't make my film to make people feel good. Then don't show it in my theaters. I'm like, full power. You're right. हमारी गलती है कि we thought that people will come to your theater, sit in a red lounge, comfortable seat, eat caramel popcorn and have their heads fucked for them. That's just expecting too much from people.
तभी मेरा नाम जोकर भी पिट गई.
हाँ, हर ऐसी फिल्म जो सवाल उछालेगी, आपको थोड़ा अनसेटल करेगी, आप पॉपकॉर्न खाते खाते नहीं देख सकते, आप पॉपकॉर्न पे चोक करोगे तो पॉपकॉर्न वो बेच नहीं पाएंगे और आप बैठे हो, भयंकर एसी का बिल चढ़ रहा है उस हॉल का, आप कंफर्टेबल सीट में बैठे हो, आजकल तो सारी सीटें रिक्लाइन भी होती हैं, आप ऐसे कंफर्ट में यू विल वॉच समथिंग सो अनकंफर्टेबल, इट डजंट मेक सेंस.
Yeah, it was extremely intense, but I think this is my best episode.
तुमको मजा आया, तुमको बोलने में अब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो रहा है कि मैं बोलूंगा कि मजा आया तो पता नहीं देव क्या बोलेगा.
मुझे मजा आया. Great.
Thank you for having me. This was more intense than I thought it would get. I think it all started. Your first 2-3 questions were like fuck missiles. वो उसके बाद जो
You
खुले
told me जो पूछ रहा है पूछा. I was like चलो अब मेरे को खुला मैदान मिल चुका है.
ठीक है. Thank you.